Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all. Real estate experiment. What is happening, y'all? Today, I have a very special guest, Chris Prefontaine. Welcome to the lab, my friend.
Thanks,
we do
Ruben.
have
Appreciate it.
no problem. We do have the French connection in the building, so we always like to point that out. And we're just talking about. I think you're based in Rhode Island. Is that correct?
I am, and I actually like your pronunciation better of the name, but we'll go with my name for now, and we'll live with it.
Talk to me. I want to make sure I get it right.
No, you got it right. I like your pronunciation that you told me before the show better.
Oh, okay, awesome. Well, we can't definitely gotta throw a little bit of rouler la tongue a little bit. You have to. So, listen, Chris. The reason why we love having you here, first of all, we love having practitioners step into the lab, so that's going to be meaningful to our audience. So we can't thank you enough for coming. And I know that I'm actually a huge big proponent of being able to not only be a practitioner and then being able to teach what you practice. That's fantastic. It's a proven model, and you're able to really, tap into your community, including ours today. So we're super excited. But before we get there, I don't like to go with the quintessential, where did you get started? I like asking of what gets you out of bed. What is it, and maybe what gets you out of bed today, and what got you out of bed before you were Chris that you are today?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, real estate in general, as you probably know, never, ever, ever is the same. So the second that becomes boring and the deals start repeating, I'm probably out. But so far, so good. Second thing is we are, especially during COVID, frankly, literally taking people from A through Z and just watching a transformation. I love doing that, and that doesn't get boring. So that's why it keeps me cranking. Yeah,
and you have a very. I want to talk about this because I know your background talks about you having a real estate franchise to now you're consistently acquiring properties on a monthly basis. You have a great community where you're actually teaching people and elevating them to do more or less similar of what business model you're doing. So I want to tap into that a little bit, Chris, of what is it that you can show someone, hey, I've done this, it works. What kind of real estate? Because real estate is such a large umbrella that it's always best to preface by identifying what type of real estate are we going to talk about in the lab today, Chris?
Yeah, for sure. I agree. There's so many niches. We work on what we call terms, and for us, that means, I'll skinny it down, that means lease purchase, owner financing, and subject to deals. The first two being the most prevalent, especially for someone new or trying to ease into it or trying to tack it on for a profit center.
Excellent. So why did you pick those? And is this something that you stumbled upon first, or is that something that you found like, not too many people are doing it, let me just give it a shot?
Two things. One is I came out of the '08 crash thinking, man, oh man, if I was to get back in, what are going to be kind of the new rules that I'm going to play by? And that would be no banks, no signing personally, because I got wrecked during the '08 thing, signing personally. So that's what sparked it. And then we said, okay, we can do those rules in a couple of niches. So let's do one where we can get paid several times per deal. Because, and I have guests on my show, so I'm not against any one of the niches, but like the wholesale and the flipping, they're one check deals. We create 3 checks, 3 paydays per deal. And that's just a lot better than having a job of spinning plates constantly trying to do deals,
Okay, so I'm not going to let you go with that one by just saying, 3 checks. No. That's. I don't think we've ever had anybody in the lab talk about that. So can you elaborate a little bit more of what that really entails and what you need to do to put yourself in a position to get 3 checks per deals?
Yeah, absolutely. So we call it 3 paydays. We've actually trademarked it. And why is that? It's because every deal we do, whether we buy lease purchase or whether we buy owner financing, so we could talk about those later, whether we do that or not, we always exit with a rent to own person coming in the home or owner financing buyer coming in the home. And when we do that, we get payday 1 is down payment, non-refundable. Payday 2 is the monthly spread difference between what I'm paying out to the underlying bank or seller and what I'm getting in from the buyer. So there's a spread there. That's payday 2. Payday 3 is really cool. Payday 3 is the end of the deal. So for us, end of the deal is 3, 5, 7 years terms. And it's the markup in the price, but more importantly, the principal pay down on the underlying debt during the term. That accumulates fast.
Okay, so I love how you said that because it's very straight to the point, and you're a straight to the point kind of guy, which I like.
From New England, that's what happened.
Lose that, you gotta get straight to it. So let's. I want to take a step back, and I want to make sure we anchor that point because perhaps some of our listeners are actually, we're so used to having we talk multifamily here. We have syndicators. We have all sorts of individuals. This is very unique, and I want to make sure that we understand what we're talking about here. So why don't you take us back to the ABCs of seller financing, subject to, so we understand really what problem you're solving, because us as entrepreneurs or as business owners, and we like to solve problems. So what problem is it that you're solving, so that someone who's listening can maybe kind of have that on their radar or as part of their arrest, so say?
Yeah, really good positioning. So, okay, I'll kind of do pre-COVID and COVID, right? Because it's different. But all the time, it is someone that wants to max out their property cash-wise, if they have cash left, equity left, and can wait. Okay, so if anyone needs their equity tomorrow to go buy another house for their family or something conventional, we're not the best buy, because a lease purchase or an owner finance is going to take time as far as what problem we're solving. Now, right now, there are people that either are over-leveraged, in arrears because of COVID, don't want to sell the realtor or can't afford to. So if they sell the realtor, they might be just about breaking even or losing money. Any of those scenarios, as long as they can wait for their equity, they're going to get more with us over time. Okay, so as far as the problem, there's many. We could do a half hour just on the problems. But you're spot on. Like, if we're not solving problems, because I'm not convincing anyone to do anything, I'm solving problems, right?
Right.
Okay, so what is lease purchase and owner financing? Just at the high level, and you can let me know if you want to drill down. So let's say you're the seller. You got a home that's worth $300,000. We agree on that, and let's give you some equity. Let's say you owe $250,000. So I'm going to say to you, okay, I'm going to come in. I am going to start paying the underlying mortgage that's in your name.
Yep.
I'm going to take over all maintenance repairs, which I pass on to my buyer. And I'm going to guarantee your $50,000. I'm going to protect that, but it's going to come at the end of the term or sometime before that. So you know in your mind, if you can wait, look, I got my 50. I couldn't sell in the open market, but he's going to protect my 50 grand. And at the end of that term, I'm paying off the underlying debt. It's not 250 anymore. It's lower, right? Because over time. And then the 50 grand. Now, I'm not doing that until I find my buyer to occupy that home. And who are we putting in the homes? Talk about solving problems. People that can't today, in the snapshot in time, get qualified for loans. It's a very high percentage right now. Yeah. It was before COVID. It just got pushed through the roof. So we're like 3 times as busy since this all happened.
Absolutely. And talking about that for a second, and is that particular, and you might be able to fill in some gaps here, Chris, is it because the bank might look at me maybe if I got hit with COVID, or not the actual virus, but I got perhaps my employment got impacted, are they going to see a gap in my employment? Is it that my credit has been completely affected, that the banks won't lend me money? Like, what are some of those real impacts that not only someone who's listening might, think about in their community of people that are dealing with, but even maybe themselves not realizing that they're in that position? What are some of those things, Chris?
Well, I mean, here's the regular price range and the high price range. The regular price range, medium price range buyers, what's going on is the banks have just pushed that bar up so high. If they were borderline financeable, they just got flushed out, and it's kind of sad. Like, they're good buyers. We used to deal with just people that needed enhancement in their credit. But now we're talking about people that need enhancement of their credit and that are borderline great buyers that just got pushed out with a new criteria. Direct example.
What do you mean by that? Yeah, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah. The banks have, since COVID, almost across the board, made it more difficult to qualify by pushing credit score requirements up, by requiring more reserves. I'll give you a direct example on the higher end, because jumbo loans are even tougher right now with COVID. That's right. So we had a home that we were looking at in Colorado. One of our students, we partner on the deals. And it was $1,350,000. The student puts it under agreement for a owner financing deal. The buyer that immediately calls them, unbeknownst to us when we took the home under agreement, was a buyer that was already lined up to buy that house conventionally, had 760 credit, had $135,000 down, 10%. The bank, the week of the closing, flushed the loan out and said, you don't qualify anymore. We have higher standards and you need 2 years reserve. He used to have 2 years reserves. So now we got him in the door, and we're going to give him the time he needs to save up the reserves and go back to the bank. So it's a great win-win-win on all fronts.
Wow, that's so. Tell me. I know we took a step back, and you've been doing this for 30 years plus, right? So, initially, did you, I know I asked you this, and I'm not sure that I got a chance to tie the two together. Was this something that came out of a solution, or was it like, oh, like I discovered this, like let's just dive deep into it?
Yeah. When I came out of the '08 crash and we said, what are we going to do here to operate? I started looking at only lease purchase. And then as I started diving into lease, because I knew of it, I mean, I've been in the business a lot of years before '08, but I never did it. I didn't do it as a realtor, I didn't do it as a developer. Finally, I started opening my eyes to that. Then I read this old book from like late 1800s, like the Carnegie and Rockefellers. They were doing lease purchase. It's not like new, but nobody put a system around it. And then I started thinking about how to create those 3 paydays, and it became really cool. And then when we when we started evolving to owner financing, then just kind of a progression, we look for owner financing deals that are free and clear, no mortgage, so that the owners have flexibility. And we structure great prices for them, but we give them monthly principal payments, principal only. So let me give you a metric. Our deals, all 3 paydays, for our family team are worth about 75 grand. We're kind of on the lower end of our student population. Our students go from like 45 to 250 per deal, all 3 paydays. So these are lucrative 3 paydays.
Jeez, that's very impressive, and I'm not gonna let you get away with saying that keyword. I'm in the lab. We're always taking notes here. I heard systems. Systems, and I'm so glad you said that, because the concepts are there, like you said, to your point, that the Carnegies you said are using.
Yeah, it's been around for decades.
And it's just so fascinating, because I think what we can offer in our businesses is either who's reinventing the wheel, it's just repackaging it in the streamlined way and in the systematized way, which I love. So we know that you're doing very well for yourself today, and you're helping tons of students. What is that? What does scaling look like for you, Chris? Like, how do you scale this operation, and what are some of those systems that are maybe on from a bird's eye view that you've kind of put in place so that you have a well-oiled running machine?
Yeah, so it started like just with me, just so people listening go, okay, could I do this? It was just me coming out of the '08 crash with, like, I got beat up credit-wise. I know, it's just me. So then the scaling looked like this. And I have a video called The Path that walks people through this. They can copy it. But what it looked like is multitude of buyer calls coming in, multitude of seller calls coming in. So we created videos, Q&A videos, to answer all that mundane stuff. So that starts to become a system, so that they go through that first before we take the time with them. So it weeds out the junk, so to speak, the people that don't belong in the program. And then
I'm sorry, just so we're clear, this is the program for potential owners, or is this your students? Just
as an investor, like if they're looking at how they would do this, like this is how I did it. Started creating those videos that we could get the pre-qualification through faster for buyers and sellers. And then I actually trained my son-in-law Zach and my son Nick to handle the buyers, Nick, in the seller side of things, Zach. And Zach had no experience. He was a bartender and a personal trainer, and now he's done hundreds of deals. Now, most recently, how do we scale further? Zach brought on a seller specialist to replace him in the field. So you can scale this and you can automate this, especially with all the virtual going on right now.
Okay, so real quick, if I'm Nick and Zach, I'd love to hear. If I'm sitting, and I wish maybe we should have had them on the show as well. Next time we'll get him here in the lab.
Show, yeah.
What is Nick saying to? I'm not sure which one is doing this. Zach is working with sellers.
Yeah. So Zach does the sellers.
All right, real quick, high level. You're Nick, and I'm a potential buyer. Yeah. What is that conversation like that you're having with me? I mean, I think we touched on it, but I'd love to hear like what it sounds like.
Yep, good question. So first and foremost, are you looking for a rent, or are you looking to actually buy? Because this is not for renters. Big distinction. Yeah. Secondly, if you were to tie up a home, how much down payment do you have set aside? That tells us, again, if they're serious, that they're a buyer, not a renter. And then if they are, then we're getting them to the property, and then they're actually applying on our own in-house form called the next step, where they outline where they're going to get the down payment, our payday one, what their income is, and the whole regular application process after that.
I love, I was just telling this to my team. I just love how simple that process is. And when I say simple, I don't mean easy. I just mean how it's easy for me to execute and take the next step. I think you overwhelm people with a dozen steps and you've lost me. So I really do like that. Okay, cool. So now we're hanging out with Zach, and this is probably the most interesting part, because I think people, you talked about this wholesaling. I know some people talk about it as an exit, or as a potential strategy if you really understand, the nuances that go around real estate. if I'm having a conversation with a seller, what is my incentive? Why should I even consider this?
Okay, so a couple different variables here, real deals. First of all, the initial conversation sounds like this. If you're an expired listing or a for sale by owner or for rent by owner, that's primary sources. My question, or Zach's question to you is this, real simple. If I can get you to your price, are you open to doing that on a lease purchase or owner financing? That's the opening question. Now, with COVID, frankly, it's a little bit more exploratory because everybody says knee jerk. No, I want full price. I get that. So doesn't 99% of other sellers. But did you know? And we educate them on the fact that buyers are having a tough time financing right now, and so a lot of the sellers are coming back to us because of that. So that's just the door opener. Now, as far as the why as a seller, there's a whole bunch right now going on. So it's the I couldn't sell, whether it's COVID or not. It's the we just did one that was divorced. They were in arrears by like 3 or 4 months. Like there's some pain out there right now. You have 30% of the mortgages right now in the United States. I heard this like a month and a half ago, so it's probably worse. 30% of them went on that forbearance through the COVID, 3 months. That is a huge number. And most of them did, if they're not government loans, is they kicked it down the street to go ahead and pay it now. And that's going to be a tough road to hoe right now.
Wow. Lastly, I got to ask this, how, and I'm sure the listeners are just itching just for me to ask this. How are you finding these sellers?
We have virtual assistants, or you can do it yourself, but we suggest virtual assistants calling on those expireds, FSBOs, and for rent by owners, finding the cream of the crop, the ones that say, yeah, I'm open to something to do with terms, have them call me. If I can get my price, I'm open. And then we pick up the phone, or a seller specialist picks up the phone and calls them and structures the deals.
Is there a metric that you guys, and I'm sure, again, I'm really stoked to give your links out because I know you have tons of education on this, but is there a metric that you, that makes sense for you where, I don't know if it's a certain amount, a percentage of a loan, like what is it? Are there some things that you're looking at that where you can look at a deal at face value and be like, yeah, this is not going to work?
Yeah. Okay. So let's say a house is over leveraged.
Yeah.
The only way to make that work is to either buy it subject to, so there's no end date, or do a long-term lease purchase. Like I did some lease purchases in 13 that were 9-year lease purchases that are still going. They have a ton of equity in them, but at the time they were pressed. So at first glance, the only deal that I can't do anything with, literally the only deal, is if someone calls and this happens and says, I have no equity and I'm a year behind. Like there's just no room to make up anything, and we get them. But all the other deals, as long as I have time, I can make them work. We can make them work. We can structure them. It's the term that's so important. How far out can we go?
Got it. So, Chris, have you, as we transition into the Real Estate Foundation, have you, by any means, have you just doubled down on what's working? Have you tried to, kind of branch out into other areas in real estate? And if not, why not?
Yeah. I've touched almost every niche before launching this post 2008, crash. So except for large apartment buildings, I've touched just about everything in some way. And so we picked this and we stick with this, and we kind of don't let the shiny object syndrome come in and distract us, because as you know, any one of these niches can be profitable.
Yes.
But all of them, you will be less profitable and maybe even lose money if you start to get the shiny object syndrome.
Okay.
It's crazy.
I'm so glad you said that, because literally our brand is experiment real estate, the real estate experiment. And I think part of that is, I want to bring this full circle is, I think, often you'll get the question where do I get started in real estate? Right. Or I want to get started in real estate. And I think the next question that comes, what kind of real estate? And I think the only way to find that out is to either you kind of fully submerge yourself into the environment, or again, podcasts like these. That's why we have the pleasure of hosting them, where you can kind of go through the experience and, okay, great, maybe this is something I want to try to see if it works. And then we say try, we're talking about real practitioners. We're not talking about like a month. We're talking like applying yourself, see what works, see what you don't like, and then double down on what works. At what point, if you agree with experimenting, or at least that experience, at what point did you feel you gained traction? You're like, yeah, this is gonna be, this is gonna pick up.
When I started, you mean?
Yeah, I should say when you started, and at what point do you feel that you got some traction?
I'd say I got excited in my first 6 or 7 months because I started doing the deals. But like any other business, I can't tell you, I could do this every few years, but the first notch in the ladder, so to speak, was probably by about the end of 15. So it's a good 2.5 years into laser focused terms, good 2.5. But look, here's a formula. This is any niche. This is actually any industry. You can do this if you own a restaurant. Pick a niche that you can get excited about, like you and I are saying, that you can get behind. And there's a lot of free out there now, so it's not hard to find one. Like we have free stuff everywhere. Go explore, go experiment. Second, find someone in the niche that is where you want to be, but still current. Because with COVID going on and everything, you're following someone that's outdated, you're going to get in trouble. This is just a plain and simple. And then third, this is the hard piece. Once you do 1 and 2, follow that for 36 months with blinders on, you'll have a phenomenal experience because of what we said. No shiny object syndrome.
Absolutely. So talk about, as we transition into the keeping it real segment is, I always like to have this conversation. I hope you can shed some light on it. Why there's a lot of thought leadership platforms. There's a lot of coaching, etc. People do it for different reasons. Obviously, I think it's a great business model. It's a business in itself too. So there's nothing wrong with that by any means. But why do you, Chris, and why do you do coaching, and what excites you about it, or what are some of the reasons why you got pulled into it?
Yep, I'll tell you how you get pulled into it, and then I'll tell you what keeps me in it. And everyone who coaches goes, "Yep, I get it," and everyone who doesn't goes, "Yeah, but why do you coach? Why don't you just do deals?" So here's the thing: we have a war college here on island. It's been here for decades, and there was a guy that was just tired of Afghanistan tours, and he looked me up and he said, "I heard you do real estate. I want you to teach me. I'm going back to civilian life." He was going back to, I think it was Oregon. I said yes. He came to my office, so he's local. I taught him how to do deals, and then that led to him referring people. That led to a little ebook I did, and that was back in 2013 or 14. Now fast forward, we've got 90 people we partner with all over North America, and hundreds of students have gone through the program, but those are serious students. And here's the answer to coaching. When you coach, there's two things that happen. One is you sharpen your saw big time. Like we have certified coaches now that we've trained to be coaches, and they say, "Oh my gosh, now I get it." Like you are the best at your game when you're coaching. You have to be, because you've got to stay one step ahead. Secondly, there's a mental piece of coaching that you can only get and understand when you coach. And that is seeing someone go from, "I've never done a deal," to leaving corporate life, especially with all the chaos going on, and really designing their lifestyle. That's cool. And we partner with students, as I mentioned earlier. So we are in the trenches. It's not like we say, "Okay, here's some theory, go, good luck." We're doing it with them. So it's a fast learning process.
And I'm so glad you said that. And I'm going to, bring this home. Look, we are very selective in who we select. And I'm very selective in what I read. And I think the issue that people have sometimes is they'll kind of put people in the pit of like a guru or or a paradox of practice, which I'm a huge believer that you should not be, right? It's easier to talk about something and rather than doing it as a practitioner than teaching it.
Exactly.
So I tip my hat to you for that, because I think that goes a long way. And then the second part that I think is fascinating that a lot of our guests talk about is fulfillment. And that's what I heard. I mean, I personally, when I see that, or my clients, give me like these testimonials or whatever, that gives me the goosebumps. It's better than a paycheck. Like, it's crazy. And so I definitely wanted to take that opportunity because, anytime we see the word coach, I think sometimes people, and again, this isn't anybody who's in our network, because anyone who knows in our network, we spend thousands of dollars educating ourselves, mentors, personal development. So that's when it's not about that. But I do want to have that conversation because I think it's big right now in this day and age. And I couldn't agree more at that the best, what did they say? The best student or the best teacher is the best student or whatever, teaching someone else. I think that's 100% right.
I'd probably butcher it, but I think you got it.
No, I think I butchered it. You said it right the first time, but no, that's fantastic. And I wanted to bring that full circle. So right before we head out though, I did want to double check. Look, you're a system driven guy. You got a successful business and you're pulling your family into it, which is wonderful. And you're elevating people within your community. We're going to give the call to action, but right before you drop, I want to ask you core rapid fire questions, my friend, real quick. Favorite book? I know we got yours that we're going to drop below, but do you have a favorite book out there that's kind of giving you a lot of insight in your journey as a practitioner, as a coach, as a business owner?
I read so much, it changes every 90 days. But what comes to mind is The Hard Things About the Hard Things, because it was just kind of blunt. Here it is. Here's how you work on it. And I like that style.
Nice, nice. What's the best habit that serves you every day, Chris?
Again, that changes with time and age, but right now it's working out and meditating and gratitude in the morning. Those three things that my day's off if I don't.
All right. When you mentioned systems before, is there a new piece of, it could be a software, an application, anything, a notebook that you feel serves your team very well?
We just transitioned after 9 months of building it to a private white label Freedomsoft product for our CRM and all our students. And it's just been a lifesaver.
Nice. I like that white label. I have to follow up with you offline about that. With that said, where can the people find out more about what you're doing if they want to hear more about your business model, which is very unique? We've never had anybody in the lab have this. So, tip my hat to you. But where can we find out more about you, Chris?
Yeah, thank you. smartrealestatecoach.com is the main site. If you can deal with listening to the New England accent for a while, there's a free webinar there. You'll get some value there. And then the YouTube station, I said dig for free. If you go on to YouTube and put Smart Real Estate Coach, there's just one of our days we release whiteboarded deals. Like we show the deals, the good, the bad, the ugly. All of them are there. It's over 100 of them there. Go check it out.
Awesome concept. We'll make sure we do that, and we'll make sure we include that in the show notes. Just like that. Thank you for stepping in lab, Chris. And just like that, we are out.